Hey everybody, and welcome to the second tutorial in this series where we're going to steal the React router library. Now, more specifically, we're going to implement 4 of its components: the route component, the link one, the redirect one, and the switch component. And I think I'm going to also split this tutorial up into 4 smaller parts. I think that way is much more manageable. Actually, I'll see 3 or 4 smaller parts depending on how long the recordings last. But also, if you don't like this format, if you'd rather have one long recording, I don't know, just give me some feedback in the comments below so I know what to do in the future. Now, this being said, let's jump into the code and get started, right? Okay, so here I have a brand new application bootstrapped with, and yeah, you guessed it, the package we wrote in the previous tutorial, our own implementation of Create React App. However, if you haven't followed that tutorial, if you don't have that code, it's okay, just use the original Create React App and bootstrap yourself a new, well, React application. So, this is the app. Let me just create here a folder called router, and maybe let's create here a file called router.js. Okay, so in this one, we're going to do the route component. And let's look at the README. So here on GitHub, by the way, all this source is also open sourced on GitHub. You can find it there. So looking at the GitHub and going to the React router folder, we have here some README documentation. Now, I've stolen these docs from the original docs, but I only kept what I've actually implemented, right? So they're not the full official React router docs. But we're going to use them in this tutorial so that we know exactly how, like, what we want to steal and how things like props, components, how things should work, because I didn't really memorize them by heart. So we're going to look in the docs. So first, the route component, well, it's going to receive a prop of a component. It's going to receive a component as a prop, and it's going to render it if you're on that route. That's pretty much it. So yeah, let's go ahead and first import React from React. And I assume you're going to be using this through a Webpack, through a bundler, something like that. So this type of import statement should work. Then let's create our component, which I'm going to use a class, just because we're going to need... well, actually, I think we could also use a functional component, but you know, for me personally, having components as classes makes things a little bit more readable. So I'm going to go with this way, but it might work also as a functional component. You're free to try it your way. So I'm going to say export class route extends react.component. And let me just open up app.js here to the side, close the menu. And the way we're going to use it is we're going to import it here in our app component. So router.js, and let's import the name. And here maybe under the paragraph, we're going to be using it something like route, and we're going to need to give it a component. And since functions are components in React, let's just here put a paragraph which says heyo from route, and close the route component. Okay, so this is how we want to use it, and I haven't passed a path, anything. We're going to take it, small steps. And the first one is to have it render something. So here in the component, let's go in the render method. And what I want to render is, so basically I have the component, and if I destructure it, this is my preferred way of working with the props. So component is this, the props. And here we want to basically render this component. This is going to be the first step. Now, I don't want to use JSX for this. I don't want to be doing like this thing here, although it would work in this scenario. But when I'm going to deploy, when I'm going to release this as an NPM package, and then I'm going to put it in my app, this React router code is not going to pass through the same steps as our regular code. So it's not going to be processed by Babel, by Webpack. I mean, it's going to be processed by Webpack, but it's not going to pass through Babel. So JSX is not going to work. If it's not passed through Babel, the JSX will not get converted to regular JavaScript. So it's not going to work. Maybe there are some ways to configure Babel to also do this for NPM packages or, like node modules. But you know what? I don't really care about that. We're going to be using the native, or maybe the, well, this is still kind of native, but like the basic React syntax, which is like just regular functions. So instead of using JSX, we're going to here say return react.createElement, and this is pretty much what Babel does when converts JSX to regular JavaScript. It's just a bunch of create elements and other functions called like normal code. So I'm going to create an element, and here I gotta give it the element, and I can use a string or a React component. There are multiple ways to call this function. So I'm going to put just the component. Yeah, so let's start our app, npm start, and then I'm going to go into Chrome, open up a new tab, localhost 8080, and yay, here we have it. Heyo from route. Cool. Now, second step, let's add some path, right? So I want to have this component render only when you're on settings, for example. So now we're going to have here in the render method also the path. And I want to do something like this. Maybe if, and here we're going to check the path. So if kind of like the path matches, we're going to still return the component, else we're going to return null. And for the first step, let's just do a dummy like equals check. So we're going to go if location.pathname is equal to path, return it, otherwise return null. Okay, you see the app has been dynamically updated. We don't have the paragraph here anymore, but if we change the route to settings, /settings, you see here we have it, right? So the path name from the browser matches the path passed to the component. It renders out component, voila, it works. Now, if we put something else here, like a typo, the component has disappeared, which is great. Okay, now this is like this check right here is not really what we want to do. We're not going to keep this. We got to change it because the path has a couple of different formats it can be in. So for example, the very simple one is the one we had. So let me just put some comments here. So we can have /settings, right? In which case it's got to match. It's got to match, right? Or we can have /settings/ and then we can put here some parameters. I think they're called URL parameters, but I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure you've seen this before. So maybe I want to go not /settings, /user/ and here user ID, and then maybe the settings of this user and the specific setting ID. So by configuring a route like this, we have here some dynamic stuff, right? Because we don't know beforehand what user we're going to be, so we can allow with this colon syntax like anything in there. So because there are multiple ways of having this path prop, we're going to need to parse it a little bit more smart, let's say. So I want to actually create a regex. This is my final thought. From this path, create a regex and then match the path name of the location, so this one, with that regex. So that way we know what to render. So let's pretty much do this. So I'm gonna say parse path, and it's gonna receive a path as an argument, which is gonna be a string. First thing I want to do is split by the /. So I'm gonna go ahead and be like, path parts equals path dot split /, and then let me just have the regex string here initialized, and I'm gonna go ahead and say path parts dot for each, and here we're gonna have a part which is a string. Now, actually a small parenthesis. There are of course libraries out there that parse this kind of path syntax for us. But I don't really want to use anything else than what we really need to use, which is React. I really want this package to be like 100% our code. Like, so you actually see that it's not some black magic out there. It's not so, it's not magic. It's just code. So I'm gonna do my own parsing function, which of course may have bugs. I haven't really looked at the libraries and read all the documentation and handled all the edge cases, but again, that's not the point. The point is to learn the overall, the general way of doing this, and again, for you to see this is not black magic. So my way of doing this is, or how I'm thinking of doing it is to check if the part starts with a colon. If it starts with a colon, then I have something dynamic, like here, okay, like user ID. If it doesn't start with a column, it's gotta match that like word, or like that string. So let's do that check. So if starts with a colon, then I want the regex to add to it. And with this syntax, I'm saying, okay, I want any character to be there. I want any character except slash. The plus means at least one time. And I think I'm also going to, I'm also going to put a slash before. I'm not pretty sure if I need to escape this or not, but we'll see, right? Okay, so we're going to put a slash and then anything you want after it. Otherwise, the regex string, we're going to attach to it the slash and then the part. So let's convert this one to template literals, and we're going to go slash and then the part. And finally, let's return new regular expression and the string. Cool. So we got this one. And here what I want to do now, and just a quick check to see that this function works. Let's go ahead and be regex is parse path of path. And we're just going to go ahead and be like if regex.exec location.pathname. Right, this exec is gonna execute the regex on the string. It's gonna return us some matches if there are some, or like if it's okay. Otherwise, it's going to return null. So yeah, let's check it. So here we're on a dummy route. You see nothing here. Go to settings. Still nothing here. Do I need to escape this slash? I'm not extremely sure. Let's print the regex here, and we'll see how it goes. Oh, okay, it's got a lot of. I think I know what happens. So let me just print the path parts. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we have also some empty strings. Okay, so when splitting by slash, because it starts with the slash, we also have some empty string. So that messes up all the slashes in our regex. So let me go ahead and filter, and I want to keep the parts which actually are not an empty string. Aha, and now it worked. So we're here on settings, and if I put something else, it still works, yes, because I appended something to settings, and because it's not an exact match, you remember. Okay, this is good it happened, because now we're also talking about the exact. So this one says it's got to be an exact match. We haven't added this exact attribute or implemented it, so by having settings and then some more letters to the end, it still matches. But if I do something totally different, yeah, it doesn't match, right? So settings matches, settings and anything afterwards, it matches because we're not on the exact property. If we have something that doesn't start with settings, maybe user and then Bob, it doesn't match. All right, but let's check also the other part of having this one. So let's go ahead and be like, okay, I want to have maybe not settings, but user, and then I want to have user user ID, and then I want to have maybe profile or maybe friends. Let's go with friends. So the friends of this user. So user Bob doesn't work, and then we go ahead here and go with friends, and you see it works. So this part in the middle can be totally dynamic, right? We can change this user ID, whatever we want. It just cares about this one and this one. Cool. Now, let's also do the exact part right now. So we know we're all set. So here I'm gonna also, we're also gonna get this one as a prop, and I'm gonna pass it to the parse path function, and we're gonna have it here, and by default is gonna be false. And in the end, I just wanna go ahead and be like, if exact regex string plus equals $sign. This means the end of the string. So now, if we go again and be like user and Bob and friends, it's gonna work. If we write some other stuff after friends, it's still gonna work. But if we put exact here, you see it doesn't work, and it should work with just friends. Yeah, there we have it. So we have the path and we have exact. However, when it comes to the path, we actually have, the path can be an array of strings as well. So right now we just have one string. So let me do something like, or actually, okay, let's do the string path first, and then we're gonna refactor the component a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and here, so what should I do? Maybe change this function or change the way it works here. Okay, I'm gonna change the parse path function, and this one is gonna be an array or a string, and we're gonna return an array of regexes. So let's go ahead and be like if, or actually we can do something like this. If not array dot is array of path equals path, right? So if we don't receive an array here, so we receive a string, or again we could do some more checks, but if we receive a string here, I want to actually have an array with a string. So now I'm gonna go ahead and be like path.forEach, or actually, you know what, we can do this, return path.map, and we have the path here. Yeah, okay, I don't think this is actually a good idea to have this one, because it's a little bit confusing. We have path, which is an array of strings, and then we have the path, which is just one string. So let's go ahead and do this one. Let path array is equal to, and we're gonna use the ternary. So if array.isArray of path, we're gonna have the path, otherwise we're gonna have the path as an array. Yeah, I like this much more, because right now it's clear which variable we have. So we have path array.map, and then we have the path, and we're gonna go ahead and just put this one in the map function, and that's pretty much it. And here in the render, instead of regex, let's just call it regex array, and we're gonna go ahead and if, and maybe regex array dot find, and if we find a regex which matches the location, so regex dot exec location dot path name. So if we have this one, then return the component, otherwise like this, return null. And I think we can do this in a one-liner, because it should be still pretty readable. Okay. Okay, so if we find a regex which matches the current location, render the component, otherwise return null. Go ahead, we're on friends, which is good, and let's put here a regex, not a regex, sorry, an array. So let's go ahead and be this one, and I want to also put /settings. So this one should work, and /settings should work, and it does, and /something else, it doesn't work. Good. Okay, now we have the path as a string or an array of strings. So let's go back to the documentation. We have the component which we're rendering, we have the path, which is good, we have the exact variable, we implemented this one, which is good. What we also need to do is pass some props to the rendered component, right? So the rendered component is going to have a match prop, which is going to have a params object with each of the dynamic values in the URL params, right? Everywhere where we put a colon, we're going to have the dynamic values there. So you know, for example, if you're going to go to /user/Bob, you're going to fetch Bob's data, not some generic data. And then we're going to also have the location object, so information about the current location. And then we're also going to have two functions, history push and replace, which basically let you move forward or replace the current location in the navigation stack. So we gotta do this this passing of props to this component right here. So we're gonna go ahead and let's do location first, because this one is easiest. So we're gonna go state, and I think this one is called history.state, yes. And then we have search, location.search, hash is also found on location, and finally path name is and here, oh, I have here a typo, it shouldn't be a hash, this is a string. So path name is location.pathname. So we're gonna pass this one, okay. Now let's pass also the history functions. So push and replace. And actually, you know what, I'm gonna fill in the code for these last. Let's fill in the code last, just because these are related to the next tutorial. So we end the note, we end the tutorial with these ones. Now I also want to do the match object. So I gotta have match here, and I'm gonna have some params, and this one I got to fill it in somehow. So how do I find out what the hell is going on? Now, my first idea would be to use capture groups in regular expressions, and you have, I think in Chrome you have named capture groups, so you can assign a name to a portion of a regex and then extract its value from there. But if I remember correctly, it didn't really work in Firefox, so that was a bummer. So we're gonna do things a more manual way. Now what I want to do, and we're gonna start with the parse path function. Now this one is returning an array of regexes, but I wanted to return an array with objects, which are going to have a regex, and then it's going to have the group names. So basically whatever you, for example here, if you look on the right, this user ID, right, this is going to be in group names. This one is going to be an array of string. Right, let's put like TypeScript syntax. It's going to be an array of strings. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go in the result of this exec function. So where is it? Right, we're going to go here in the result of this exec function and basically fill in values by the order of, or basically, let me explain like this. We're going to look at the result of the exec function. We're going to have some groups. We're also going to put some regex groups. We're going to have the values there, and we're going to take them by the index, right? So we're going to take it value 1, 2, and so on. And we're going to use the names here so that we match, right? So the first one is going to be named like user ID, second one, maybe settings ID, and so on. I hope that makes sense. If not, trust me, it's not that difficult. We'll see in the code in a few moments. Okay, so what do I want to do? First thing, I want to put here some parentheses. This way I'm telling the regex, okay, my man, this is a group. I want you, when you exec yourself on a string, also give me the result in this group. I care about this. This is what basically I'm saying to it. And then if we are here, maybe let's go ahead and be group names. It's an array. And we're going to go ahead, if we're in this situation, we're going to go ahead and be like group names dot push part dot slice of 1. So I'm going to push in the group names the actual value after colon. That's the URL param value. And this is what I want to also pass to the underneath component here in the params, right? I want to have something like user ID Bob. So I care first about this user ID, and I'm going to put it here in group names. Okay. And then instead of returning just an array of regexes, let's return an object which is going to have the regex, or actually let me copy this one. It's going to have the regex, and then it's going to have group names called like this. Okay, this is pretty good. Now we cannot use we cannot really use this find function because I also want to have the result underneath. So we're going to change this, and let's just use a for of loop. So let's go ahead and I think we can we do this one? Maybe regex and group names of parse path. Can we do this? I think we can do this, yeah. And then let's copy all this returning here. And we can leave the return null at the end. If it doesn't return something, we're going to return null. Okay. And then here we also have some, what is this? Comma expected. We forgot the parentheses right here. Okay, so now we're going to iterate through the result of parsing the path, which again is an array of objects, each object with the regex and the group names in order, the names here after column. Now, I want to go ahead and be like, if not, or actually, let's go like, let's use another function, let regex result is exec of location dot path name. So we want to exec the regex. Let me just change this one to 2. Okay, so we're execing the regex. Now we keep the result here. If this one is nothing, is null, we want to continue, right? We don't really care about what's underneath. Like just go to the next iteration. I think this should pretty much work. Now, if it continues here, then it means we have a match. So let's go ahead and be like, let's output the regex result and look at it. So we're gonna go here. We have a match. Yeah, and we have it here. Okay. And you see we get an array, and we have the first value. In our case is the full path because we don't have any URL params. But let's go ahead and go to the other one. So user/bob/friends. And here you see, because we have the, we put that group there, because we put the parentheses, the first one is the full string, but then we have at index 1, we have just this one right here. If you also do /friends/ maybe friend ID, and then put here Alice is Bob's friend, we look at the result. I hope you can actually see it. Let me zoom in. We look at the result and we see Bob and Alice are the at position 1 and at position 2. So putting the parentheses, it easily extracts the value from there. And now if we also print the group name, because this is how we're going to make the match, guess what? User ID and friend ID, index 0, index 1, and then here it's 1 index offset. So if it's a match, then I want here to create this params object. So let's go ahead and do something like params is an empty object, and then we can go ahead and group names that for each URL param, maybe let's call it like this. And we're gonna go ahead and be like params of URL param is equal to, and we need the index because we're gonna reference by index, regex result of index plus 1, right? Remember we have a 1 index offset here because the first in the regex result at index 0 we have the entire string, so we gotta go from index 1. And then we're gonna have match and params. We're gonna just, since it's the same name, we can use this shorthand syntax, and yeah. So okay, nothing fails, we still got it here, but let's check that it actually works. So now let's change this one from custom paragraph. Let's use it as a component which is going to receive some props. We're going to return the same string heyo from route, and actually okay, and then let's go ahead and do something like this. So, and then we're gonna go ahead span, or actually, you know what, let's do strong, and here we'll put the username, greets, and we're gonna go like this. So here I want to put the user ID, and here I want to put the friend ID, and we have it in the match property in the params. We have the match prop, and then it's got a key called params. So we're gonna go ahead and be like props of match, and here we're gonna go ahead and do something like params dot user ID, and here params dot friend ID. And yeah, let's use it. We haven't used it, so let's put it right here. And hey, we got it. You see, Bob greets Alice. We change something here. Got it. We change something Bob. Maybe it's not Bob. Maybe it's Tim. Caps lock. Hey, Tim greets Alice. Cool. This is actually pretty nice. Do we have to do something else, or are we actually done? Let me think. So we got the component, we got the path, string, an array of strings. Let's see what happens if we go to /settings. Yeah, we got undefined, so React doesn't print anything. And let's actually console log the props in the rendered component, because we want to see if we actually pass everything. So we have match, we have location, state, everything that we need. We have history with some 2 empty functions. Okay. Well, I want to do just one more thing. Yeah, just one more thing to optimize stuff, and then we're going to talk about those empty functions here. So first one, let's go ahead in component did mount, and let's all this because actually, you know what, right now I'm parsing the path over and over again. So you know what, I don't really want to do that. I want to parse it at the beginning, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and be like this: parsed path is equal to parse path of this, and we can go ahead and do the same stuff. Actually, I think it's easier to just copy this one, like here. We don't need the component. Okay, and here we're gonna go of this dot parsed path. And to be honest, I don't really want to put it in state, because if the path changes, the props change, and then the component gets re-rendered. So this is okay. You might also argue that, okay, what if I change the path dynamically in the future? I think I implemented this in the real package, but I'm not gonna do this in the tutorial because it's like, it should be pretty straightforward, right? If the props update, you just parse it again, and that's pretty much it. And to be honest, I haven't really stumbled upon a use case where you have a route and you dynamically change its path properties. So I want to parse this one just once here, and we have just one function called this is okay. And let's see if it worked. Undefined is not iterable. Is it? Wait a minute. This is the parsed path. Is it because render gets called? And to be honest, I didn't really know this, if it happens. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. So render gets called before component did mount. Okay, I didn't know this. This is interesting. Okay, this is I'm a little bit surprised, because why would you render it if it's not mounted? But I guess they have some of the reasons. So okay, let's do it in the constructor. Okay, so I'm gonna have here the constructor props. We're gonna call like this, and we're gonna go ahead, and here I can just go props.path and props.exact, and this one should work, right? So it still works with our Bob and with our friends and with Alice. We still got this. Now we don't compute it over and over again, so this is good. And oh yeah, I remember there were two things, this one and another one. Well, what if I pass here some props? What if this route also have some prop, maybe like color red? And I want to pass this prop to the underlying component, right? So here I want to say style equals color props.color, right? Right now, nothing happens because we're not passing the props which are passed to route are not passed one level down to the component we actually render. So here I want to do, and we could do, the easiest one would be this.props. And you see everything is red. But now the problem is we're also passing properties which are not of interest to our component. We're passing path, we're passing exact, we're passing the component. So I don't really want to do that. So I'm gonna here maybe have, maybe let's create a new property called, a new variable called passed props equals, and let's destructure the props. And here let's delete the ones we're not interested in. Passed props of component, delete passed props of path, and delete passed props of exact, and passed props. Yeah, I think this should be it, right? We get the color, we get the match, we get the location, we get the history. Yeah, this is pretty much, yeah, this is good. So again, what I did, I wanted to pass properties which are passed to the route, to the component it actually renders, but I don't want to pass all props. I want to pass the props which are like specific to that component, not routes props. So that's why I created this. And I delete the props and then use this object to do the things. And I guess we could split this up in a function. So maybe let's call this one sanitize props return, and we can do this. Maybe here return passed props. Right, so our code is smaller, and here we go, this sanitize props. Okay. Okay, well, let's look at the README, and I think we're pretty much done. We got the component, we got the path as a string or as an array of strings. We got the exact variable working. We're passing down properties, and this match one is the most important because you want to be able to read from the URL. And we see here Bob greets Alice. We change it, it works. And finally, we have those two, push and replace. Now, up until now, the way we've been testing this React component is we've been changing the URL from here, from the browser. And this leads to a full page reload. In real life, we're not gonna, since we're gonna have a single page app, we're not gonna have a full page reload, but instead, we're just gonna change the URL string without a full reload, and then the route component is gonna listen to that and re-render itself. Okay, so in a real React application, no real page reloads, just like change the URL, the route, all the routes listen, and they re-render themselves. Now, in order to do this, we're going to need the link component as well, because if I change it from here, it refreshes the page. So the link component is going to be the first step. We just changed the string in the URL in the browser, and then the second step is to have the route to listen to that. And we're going to do this in the next part. So link plus dynamic listening to the route. So up until we go there, and that's where we're going to actually implement those two functions. Let me just go ahead here and just write some dummy ones which kind of work. So we have two, and then we have here what? State, replace. Yeah, since we're now doing a full reload, I'm just gonna put two here and I'm gonna say location that path name equals 2. I think this is, and let's see if it actually works. So here I'm gonna go ahead and do like a set timeout and maybe 2 seconds, and we're gonna go ahead and go props dot history that push the route, the root of our server. So let's go ahead and go to settings. We're on settings, we wait 2 seconds. Yeah, it refreshed the entire application over here. Okay, so we're going to replace, push and replace in the next tutorial, and again we're going to do that because we need the link component to just change the URL without the full page reload. We're going to listen to that, we're going to re-render the route, and everything will work. So the next one is not just link, it's link and a little bit of route component as well. This being said, I'm going to stop tutorial here. I think this is pretty enough for this one. And yeah, see you in part number 2. Cheers.